Tara, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So, we've been working together for a little while. We've been working for the last sort of 12 months, really, and I've had a good overview of your career, where you've been up to, what you've been up to today. So, I'm going to be drawing out a fair bit of that. But I think for people that are listening, for people that perhaps haven't met you before, just give them a little bit of a background as to how you got into cricket, where it started for you, what were the catalysts and inspiration. So, start wherever you want to start there.
Okay. I guess my journey's a little bit unique, and I guess for starters, I wasn't born in the UK, so I was born in USA. As a family, we moved around my dad's job, so I was born in the USA in Philadelphia, and shortly moved to Barcelona. So my childhood was in Spain. Never played cricket until I moved to the UK. As a family, we relocated in July 2006 and moved to West Sussex, and had never heard of cricket, never come across cricket. At school in Spain, we did a lot of football, tennis, swimming. I'm one of three girls. I'm the youngest, so both my older sisters are not sporty whatsoever. Bless them. Far from it, in fact. So I remember sort of my childhood being very much like playing by myself in the garden, like hitting a ball against the wall with a tennis racket for hours and hours. And we moved to the UK in 2006. It was just a means of me to make friends and chance to shine coming to my primary school. And
Right.
absolutely love the
Okay.
sport. Picked up hand-eye coordination quite well, really enjoyed it. And actually, this boy in my class that I had a bit of a crush on asked me if I was going to join the after-school club. So obviously, my answer was yes. Join the after-school club because I really fancy this boy in my class.
You haven't told me this story.
And I don't know, it doesn't
This is
doesn't always come
interesting.
out. Sometimes I leave that bit out. But I really liked it. Loved the after-school club. My mum thought it was great. Like, you're making friends. Little did she know. And then after a few weeks, they put me in touch with the local club, like a full girls club. So I played at Horsham, still a member of Horsham Cricket Club to this day. Try and play as many games as I can, or at least one game a year. But from there, then sort of the pathway, the Sussex pathway, I got involved in that and worked my way up. And that's sort of how I started. Really, it's a little bit quirky and really quite random, but I quite like it. And I think my whole career has been a little bit fluky as well.
Yeah. Did you get on the academy at
Yeah,
Sussex
I was
at
part of
some
the
stage?
academy for
Yeah.
2 years, maybe.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure just towards the middle or back end of my career, that's when you got on there. And I
Yeah,
would
what year
see
was
like
that?
the
20.
academy. So I was 2010 till 2016.
Yeah, okay.
So you guys were around. I think you had people like Tom Haynes were in that group and
Yeah, we're in
and
the same
people
year.
like that. Yeah. So when cricket's come about with with that story of chasing after a crush, but what was it about bowling in specifics that sort of grabbed your attention, that maybe was a realization of that's the skill set I want to have?
Do you know what? This has just popped into my head now, but I remember I'd done a few weeks of these after school clubs with cricket, and there was a school fair at my school, one of the summer like school fairs, and I took my dad with me. And you get those, you can like throw coconuts and you get a coconut if you win it, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So there was that going on. There was also a cricket section. I said to my dad, "Come on, let's go to the cricket bit." And you won. You there was a prize if you'd hit the stumps, and that it's the only hat trick I've ever got in my career. And they gave me a softball, and I showed my dad my action, my bowling, hit the stumps 3 times, and I won tickets to watch Sussex men play at Horsham Cricket Club. And it's the only time I've ever got a hat trick. And from then it was like, wow, this is really fun, and it was competitive, and it was a skill that I wanted to get better at. I guess the team aspect to it I really enjoyed. It was very much a community for me, especially from coming to a new country, not knowing anybody. It was really different, like a cultural shock as well. So I guess all those aspects like really appealed to me. And actually then watching cricket in person, watching on TV, later watching the England women play at Lords was a massive like door
Right.
opening for me. And that I guess that was sort of the real moment I was really inspired as a young kid and really wanted to sort of chase those ambitions.
Yeah, I remember having the Sussex C&G 2005 final. It was like this epic final. I think people can even look it up on YouTube. So
Yeah, okay.
Sussex played Lancashire in 2005 C&G final, which was like 50 over, and Sussex got bowled out for like very low score. And I remember a lot of people were leaving like towards the start of the second half of that
Yeah,
game, but
okay.
then the game completely turned on its head and Sussex won the game. And it was that experience of watching the game and watching this. I had previously started to work towards this dream of being a professional cricketer. Like I'd already recognised like this is something I want to do, but I specifically remember watching that in the stands and going, this is 100% solidifying why I want to do this. Like this is definitely that. Did you have that experience when you went and watched those games, or did you have a specific role model that you suddenly found?
In terms of role models, like and especially sort of female role models, all that sort of comes to my head is Serena Williams. Like I remember watching a lot of tennis in our
Mm,
house, and obviously growing up in Spain, there was always tennis on TV. And her as an athlete, like I really just sort of appreciated and admired because the way she moved in the court and her athleticism was incredible. But in terms of cricket, like there were no female role models really, or even generally. I think that's something which I think there's more of now. But when I was at school,
yeah,
like we'd have Olympians come to our school and show their medals, but there was never a female Olympian, which is a shame. And hopefully, I hope that's not the case now. But yeah, growing up, like I don't think I had many female role models, but I watched a bit of men's cricket. Always loved watching Stuart Broad when I was younger. And I guess sort of the pioneers were like your Charlotte Edwards, Sarah Taylor, Catherine Brunt for me, growing up and watching them play when they were obviously a bit younger. But apart from that, like I think that was when the women's or England women's cricket was just at the start. Like they
mm,
just got TV broadcast, I think 2014, and that was when it was sort of on TV more. Or you'd get fixtures, or I remember watching them play at like Preston Nomads Cricket Club, like free entry, walk in, not many people there. I mean, it's a great club, it's a great ground, but I mean that just wouldn't happen now. And I think that's yeah, it's shown the growth, and I've really enjoyed being part of the growth of the game as well.
yeah. Well, now you've, and we'll get onto it in a bit, but the WPL being in front of 50,000 people screaming, going crazy, like that is far from that experience as you can
Yeah, yeah,
possibly get.
definitely.
It's interesting you talk about role models coming from other sports. I'm a massive proponent of that. Like, I'm a huge believer in the role models you have. They don't have to have come from your sport. They don't have to have come from the domain that you have or you wish to go into. And I drew upon, I think a lot of my role models were other athletes.
Mm.
They were underdogs as well. I resonated as an underdog. I
Yeah,
wanted
okay.
to see underdogs. But cricket, I didn't have loads. I try to think of, apart from a couple that I wanted to emulate when I got to Sussex, that's who I would go towards. But other than that, there was never really anyone that I thought, yeah, this is a big thing for me. And interesting because you came from America, Spain, so there's no cricket from an early age. There's no.
Yeah.
Did your parents like cricket
My
or
dad
really
played when
into
he
it?
was younger, like, but I've never heard my dad talk about cricket before I started taking
There
it
you
up.
go. Yeah,
So yeah, it was never spoken about in the house.
yeah,
Not a massively sporty family, but like both my parents loved. Like as kids, my parents would play tennis, and we'd be like playing around the courts whilst watching them play tennis, and that was as far as it got. Like, we weren't a sporting mad family, really.
yeah. I just find that interesting, and again, almost a note to people listening: like, you don't have to have a role model in your own sport to still do well in your own sport.
Yeah,
You can have guides, these people that sort of that you can look at and try and take things from. But if there's someone that resonates and how they've gone about doing, especially mindset wise, if it's someone that resonates how they've gone about doing what they're doing, and it resonates with you, take it on board, go for it, like run after it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in any interview I do, they'd ask who's your biggest inspiration. It was never like a sporting athlete. It was always my granddad, my 101-year-old granddad who sadly passed away last year. But for me, like he epitomized like resilience, hard work, kindness. Like he was unbelievable. He had a better social life than me. At 101, he was still driving. He was remarkable. He really was. So, like for me, I always think about you're far more remembered by what you are like off the pitch than on the pitch. And just, if you can be a quarter of, a good person and carry yourself well, then I think the rest will take care of itself. Like I'm a massive believer of that.
Yeah. So the game has massively progressed since those days of going to watch it at Preston Nomads and going to watch it at local cricket clubs and there being international players playing there. But now it's in front of not only massive crowds, but there's also contracts. And with that comes professionalism. And we've spoken and I've seen the game become more and more professional in the women's game. What is it that you really enjoy about the professionalism in women's cricket that you didn't have before, but now you have, and the thing that kind of go, yeah, I love this. This is what I really like.
It's got to be the crowds. Like I think no matter how nervous you are, I think having a crowd that gets you going and is enjoying the game. Like for me, like I as a kid, like I love showing off. I absolutely loved it, and being able to hopefully entertain a crowd and like feel the love from the crowd. Like for me, it's Like it fires me up. I absolutely love it. Especially when you're doing well, it's brilliant. And obviously you can feed off that. But for me, like I think I play so much better. Yeah, knowing that the crowd's behind you, or even if the crowd's against you, like it motivates me quite well.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely from the 100, that was probably the start where I've started playing in front of bigger crowds and like really enjoyed it. And yeah, obviously WPL was just next level. Like I never thought I'd play in front of like 30,000 people. It's unbelievable. Or playing at these amazing stadiums. So for me, like just, and I think as well to be a part of, obviously to be a part of games where you've got 50 people watching, to then go to that, I really enjoyed, like I said, being part of that growth and the journey, and watching people have a, a Lauren Bell Southern Brave top,
Yeah.
not a men's top on, or having a sign with a women's player's name and number on there. Like I think it's brilliant. And that's being a part of that has been amazing.
So there's one thing about cricket that I love, and I don't know if many sports have this, and that's the fact that you can go from playing at 50,000 people, right? You could be playing an Ashes series, and you could have people screaming their heads off at you. And then maybe in a few weeks' time, you could be at a second team game running through like drills or getting prepped for another game, and there literally be man and his dog there and no
Yeah.
one watching. And
Yeah, it's very
there's
humbling,
this,
isn't it?
it's a very humbling experience. Like, I don't think people can recognize that. And I've always, and we've spoken about this, I've spoken with it with other athletes I work with about the whole going from a really big game and still being able to perform in a game where the crowd isn't there. The crowd can't there to create that buzz and that energy. And I'd seen it all throughout my professional career. People that struggled with it, people that hadn't. Is there anything that you've started to find that's clicking a little bit that you do? And I think I've got a few thoughts on it, but yeah, is there anything that you found challenging with it, and maybe how you've started to work through it?
Definitely remember that first year of the 100. We'd gone from playing at a Lord's sellout ground, and I think 4 days later we had our domestic T20 campaign at Hove. And yeah, like I said, it was like four guys, four people and their dogs were there. And it was this massive like anticlimax. And I think everyone felt a little bit like flat, like this is a big come down. But I guess like for me, my prep is never different. Keeping your prep the same, whether it's one of the biggest tournaments you ever play in your life or a club game. Like I think keeping your prep the same is crucial really, because you don't want to change things. And I think it can be a little bit demotivating at times, but I think if you keep your prep the same and you prepare like you normally would for whether it's the biggest game or a local club game, then I think hopefully that sort of keeps you grounded. But yeah, that's the beauty of the sport. I also think cricket's one of those unique sports where you could literally, like, it's not like football. You could be say like a 16-year-old young player and playing with like an England player who's got 100 caps,
Mm,
like county cricket, franchise cricket, domestic cricket. Like you can be playing with unbelievable international players. A 15-year-old that's just got a part-time contract to an academy player. Like I love the disparity in the team, and the diversity and the experienced players, the young players. And again, that's the beauty of the sport, and the I guess the ends of the spectrum that you meet as well.
yeah, I mean Sussex right now, Steve Smith and
Well,
Chiteshwar
yeah,
Pujara
like great
playing with
example.
like guys who are anywhere between 18 to 21.
Yeah,
And I think when I started out, like I had those experiences, I had those, but not to have them at that consistent level. Like they're constantly there. I mean, when I was playing, we had a very strong team, so I spent a lot of time in the reserves and the second team. So there was a gap between those two squads. But now, like it's a bit of a free for all in that team. Like it's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
anyone's chance to get in, and so the squads are always you're sort of consistently there. And so to have that presence within it, man,
I think it's
it must be
amazing. Like
yeah, crazy. They're
yeah,
two best players in the world almost.
mm, yeah, it's mad. Yeah, and I honestly don't think any other sport is like that.
Yeah, and it does come with its challenges. We could talk for literally hours around the challenges that it's faced. What are some of the challenges that have come with the professionalism of women's sport that you found?
I guess for us now domestically, obviously they only introduced 40 contracts in 2020. So what that was five in each squad. So that alone is a challenge. You've got five professional players, and the rest of the squad are either working full time, trying to train pretty unsociable hours, not training with your professionals, people who are still at university, trying to balance, yeah, deadlines, assignments, and expected to train like a professional,
Yeah,
despite not being paid that the same. Different expectations. But yeah, definitely the funding side. I think that's just a general in women's sport anyway, lack of funding. but yeah, certainly obviously there's more contracts now available, and I think it's obviously made it more competitive. You've now got contracted girls who aren't even playing, I haven't even been selected. So right now it's pretty ruthless, and I think that's how professional sport is. But definitely when we first got given our contracts, there's no instructional manual, or there's no like book on how to be a professional, what's expected of you, how it works. I guess I was really lucky that I went to Loughborough University, and the MCC program there was pretty professional.
Mm.
We were doing 25 hours a week of training, skills work, loads of team meetings, loads of stuff around culture, loads of S&C, 7 a.m. conditioning every Tuesday. That meant you couldn't go out any Monday night. So I think I was really lucky that I was part of that sort of era where you still had to go to university and you were still training. Whereas now, a lot of girls are leaving school, leaving college, and can pretty much walk into a contract if obviously it's deserved and earned. Whereas I
Mm.
think I'm really glad that I went to uni and I was exposed to managing assignments and training and fixtures and writing a dissertation. But yeah, I think that taught me a lot going into professional sport because it wasn't too dissimilar, and it almost felt a bit easier because I didn't have a degree on the side. I was just focused on my cricket. So yeah, I feel like I'm pretty lucky in that way. For a lot of the young girls, I think it's really hard because you don't get taught. I guess you just watch by example.
That actually is a really good point. That even in men's cricket, that I'd seen it where one of the biggest things that I think is a misconception with young people or young athletes when they transition to senior sport, senior professionalism, is how intense it actually is, and
Mm,
actually what's required of you outside of just doing your skill. What
yeah,
is the bits around it? Like you said, their culture. You said about like training schedules, like just having that schedule in place and a consistent one.
yeah,
That and the level of training that is then required of you to back it up daily. All of those things, I think people forget that that can just hit you like a ton of bricks. And I've seen it hit
yeah,
people like a ton of
absolutely.
bricks and really shock them and go, oh my God, this is what
Mm,
it's about. And I mean, they'll probably be happy for me to say, like the Sussex squad over the last couple of years, because they've had such a young team, they've been a good case study. But such a young team, still a very young team. They just hadn't had guys who had had experience in professional
yeah,
environments. These guys had literally been plucked out of school and placed
yeah,
into it. You're very fortunate. Loughborough is a great university for that. It's an insanely good school.
yeah. Honestly, I don't think the work ethic there was just drilled into you, so you don't even question anymore. But I think there's sort of that era. I think I was maybe the last year of that era that you sort of had to go to Loughborough if you wanted to play for England or wanted to play professional cricket. That was just the way it was. There weren't other unis that were offering the same as the MCC program there. So there was a big cluster of a lot of cricketers that went there. And yeah, I'm really glad I went. It taught me, it just taught me like basic life skills and management and yeah, your work ethic. And I mean, it was just next level. Like sometimes I look back and think that was just relentless. Like those days at uni, like you're struggling with deadlines anyway, you're balancing degree. But the way we trained was just next level.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm obviously pretty grateful for that. And
We'd spoken about it, and you obviously played with who you know well, Georgia Elwes, in the previous episode. That she spoke about playing and training with men. Did you do that? Did you do that in as you were growing up?
yeah, probably more younger side. I haven't in the last few years, but
Mm.
obviously, yeah, there was only one maybe girls age group at Horsham Cricket Club, but I can't remember who got me involved. I think one of the parents might have been watching a girls' club game and said, "Does your daughter fancy playing a bit of boys' cricket?" And it's pretty good. Like the rules, I think it was you could play 2 or 3 years below your age group. Like I remember playing midweek T20s, yeah, with Tom Haynes, Tom Clark, who else was there? Tom Haynes' younger brother, and yeah, there'd be a midweek T20 and a weekend T20. And like, I absolutely loved it. I'd get to bowl all my 4 overs. Like, it really challenged me as a player. And I loved being part of the team. I felt like I was one of the boys and I got looked after. I was playing loads of cricket. I guess your margin for error is much harsher as well. Like,
Mm.
boys get a bit more stuck in. Even like batting wise, like, I think boys tend to bowl at the body more and you get better at playing off your legs. You get better at playing off your body. Whereas I don't know why, but a lot of girls, and when I coach now, a lot of younger girls just want to bowl like top of off and a very nice line length. But I think boys, yeah, boys are a bit gritty and they want to bowl at the body, they want to bowl at your head. And like I think it's a great thing. And now I guess there's so much girls cricket, you don't have to play boys cricket. But a lot of my mates still play like men's club on a Saturday. I just think you're just gonna there's no bad that can come from it. It's more game time. It's a completely different challenge itself. you're facing quicker bowling, you're facing pretty good spin. Like the ball's getting hit harder at you in the ring. Like I would fully recommend it, definitely.
Yeah. Let's take a little bit of a little turn, and you have moved over, well, the last 12 months. You've moved to a new team, so you've moved um, to Lancashire, and you left one of the strong teams in the competition, team that was successful, and have gone to a team that are developing. Now, there's going to be people that are listening that may be considering moving teams, whether that's a professional team, whether that's an amateur team, they might be playing club football, rugby, cricket, anything. But they may be thinking, is there an opportunity here for me? Do I need to go to another club to better myself? Talk through the reasons as to why you made that move, what it was that sort of drew you away from that external success, from a team success, and then you maybe went a little bit more internal as to developing yourself.
I think that move for me is probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in my career. It was like the worst breakup you've ever had. Like last summer was a bit of a rocky one for me personally. I didn't play particularly well. I got missed out on the T20 domestic final. I got dropped for the final, which was, yeah, heartbreaking really, for a team I've been involved with since the start, really. And it was simply a matter of you just don't fit into our 11, which was, yeah, like excruciating at the time. And it's like the ultimate rejection from the tribe, isn't it? Selection and injury is the worst thing that happened in elite sport. That really hit home for me. And I started to ask myself a lot of questions. For me, it was a team that I absolutely loved. I loved the coaches, I loved the players, I loved being a Viper. But I had to ask myself some hard questions. And one of those being, like, am I getting in the team if all our England players are there? And I mean, we had an international bowling side. Like we had Charlie Dean, Lauren Bell, Anya Shrubsole, Elwes, Freya Kemp, who was just coming through, another left armour. Like I had to be pretty honest with myself and say, if everyone's available and we've got all our England players, am I getting in this playing 11? And am I playing to the role that I want? And the answer was I wasn't really. I wasn't.
Mm.
And I guess the next question was, well, are you happy with that? Yes or no? So yeah, it was a decision that kept me up for for a lot of nights, and I sort of went back and forth and thought I might do another year and give it another go and have a really good winter. But yeah, ultimately it was, I guess the question I was asked was, am I happy being a successful team, not playing to the role I want, or take a bit of a leap of faith, do something a little bit scary, move as far north as I possibly can, and join a team where there's a lot of potential, a lot of opportunity, and hopefully a really exciting career and a slightly different pathway for me. So yeah, it was a really tough decision, and I wasn't playing well anyway, so that was a really rough time. Like I couldn't even, like I was even doubting if I was making the right decision. I was in such a slump and a real sort of low place, that yeah, I questioned a lot of my decision making. But yeah, when I finally thought it was the right thing, and I guess I wasn't happy with life outside of cricket, I just thought, you know, I'm going to take a leap of faith, and like I'm going to make it work. And so yeah, I moved up to Manchester in October, and so far, like I've loved the winter with the team. I've loved being part of a new environment. I've really enjoyed being in Manchester. Life away from cricket is really positive, really good. So yeah, and again, it's the same. It's a team who have struggled for the past few years, and it's quite a frustrating time at the minute. But I know, like, looking forward, it's going to be one of the most rewarding things I ever do in my career. So yeah, sometimes like do the scary things. It's always worth it, and like having those tough conversations with yourself, they're tough at the time, but in the long run, like one of the best things that you'll ever do, I think.
Yeah, I know we'd had a few private conversations around it, and there was this self doubt and a massive leap of faith that you've said there, and it is a leap of faith. Whether you knew players that you were going into that team with, which is really handy,
Yeah,
but you didn't know the city too much. You didn't know the environment. You'd been in the south. It's home, and yeah, it takes a level of courage to do that. It does really take a level of courage, and courage to move away from some friends, a place that's brought you up, a place that you've maybe thrown yourself into, and also sometimes people will ask themselves the if only questions and dwell on that rather than think of the excitement of what could come if I really throw myself into the development of my own game myself. And actually then the crazy thing for you was that literally within the first few weeks of starting the draft for the WPL, happens, and then you're picked up in one of the biggest teams in the in the world. And let's talk about that experience.
Yeah, I think yeah, the move itself, I mean, yeah, terrifying, but actually that you're right. Like I was really excited by the prospect of moving to a new city, moving to a new club. And it sort of ignited something that I'd lost for a little bit. Like I lost the love for the game a little bit last summer and had a lot of questions about, what I was doing with my career and if I was getting better. And yeah, I think the sort of the exact words I said to the coach and our director at the time was, look, I can live with sort of taking a sidestep and taking a step backwards, but to be in the same position 12 months later, I just I wasn't going to put up with that. So yeah, it's a little bit scary, but it's yeah, this sort of the last 6 months have been a massive roller coaster, and whether that's had any influence in the WPL, I'm not sure, but it just feels like these things are starting to work out, and it feels like you're in a bit of a flow, and all of a sudden, yeah, these opportunities crop up, and yeah, the WPL was just by far one of the yeah my career highlights so far, and the most fun I've ever had playing cricket, to be honest.
So I remember the night before the first game, we're having a conversation. I'm literally sitting in a
Yeah,
coffee shop. You're in your hotel room, and we're like, "What? I think I'm playing in this game. I think I'm
yeah.
not sure, but I think I'm playing." Then you find out that you are playing, and we're like, "Right, okay, just control as much as you can. Focus on delivering what you've got right now." And again, I don't think you mind me saying, like you had some self doubts. You had some natural,
Oh,
strong
massively.
self
I was so
doubts in it.
nervous.
And I think the thing that we then managed to sort of unravel was let's just focus on something as simple as we possibly can for that game, and then you take 5 wickets in the first game.
It's
What
hilarious,
what
isn't it?
yeah, what that 24 hours and 48 hours, like, what was that like? I haven't really actually asked you fully what that was like,
Yeah,
so
okay.
yeah, it'd be good to know.
Um, it was exhausting. Like my emotions were so high. Yeah, we obviously spent the night before, and I was like, Lewis, I'm really gonna need a little pep talk. Like I'm gonna need a good pep talk before this game. But yeah, we'd done sort of our plans before, and I didn't really think I'd get a game, to be honest. But yeah, the night before, I just wanted to make sure that, like, if I do get picked up, if I do making the 11, I want to make sure I've done everything right. And yeah, we spoke about, what can you control and how do you want to play the tournament? How do you want to walk away from the tournament? And spoke a lot about playing, carefree. And for me, like, I guess it was a win-win situation because, like, I was very much under the radar. If I didn't do so well, it didn't really matter. I was almost irrelevant. If I did well, it was a bonus. And I guess looking back on that, I didn't take the most of that mindset and perspective. But yeah, it was pretty liberating to play in that style and to I guess I was massively starstruck for 4 weeks, basically having these world class players around me and chatting to Meg Lanning about fields and thinking, oh my God, what am I doing here? Like so much imposter syndrome going on. But I remember in that game, like just thinking, yeah, like 12-year-old Tara would be absolutely lapping this up. Like my granddad would be absolutely loving the fact that I'm out in India playing cricket. And I guess thinking about that sort of side and then anything that happened was a bonus really. Obviously not expecting to get a wicket, let alone five. But yeah, after like my phone went berserk. The morning of, so I knew I was found out I was playing. I think I messaged you, my dad, and one of my close friends from home to say I'm playing. That's it. And
Yeah.
like when you've got your driving test, and you don't want to tell anyone in case you fail, right? It was a bit like that. Like I thought, I'm not gonna tell my mom. I'm not gonna tell whoever because I just want to keep it hush hush. And then yeah, I got all these, yeah, a lot of messages, like really really kind messages from people all over. A lot of the girls from USA, a lot of girls from South America, who I played with.
Mm.
Literally, people all over, just like I was on cloud nine, pretty much. It was yeah, incredible.
I think the cool thing that we found from it was the kind of taste that you got of that, and you kind of touched on it, of the scale of what could be possible, and also the ability of other players. So then, obviously, that wasn't the only game you played. There were more games, and the tournament, it was an epic tournament. Actually, I remember watching a lot of the games. But you were rubbing shoulders, like you said, with some of the best in the world. And Georgia and I talked about the gap between almost the Australian players and the rest of the world. Was there anything that
Yeah.
you learned from people like Meg Lanning, or you sort of noted that you thought, okay, this is a differentiator between where they are at and where probably the rest of everyone else is at right now?
Yeah, I tried to ask as many questions I could. I was probably a little bit of a pest by the end of it, but like I just wanted to learn as much as I could. But I remember asking Jess Jonathan, sort of, she said after their 2017 World Cup loss, or it was after their home World Cup loss. They had a massive like culture change, and she said went into some stories about like a new coach came in. I think this is when Meg had a shoulder injury, so she was out for a bit, and they had this massive like flip basically. And it was just really interesting to hear their side of the story, how their perspective, their work ethic, their culture had changed, and I guess just to hear how they train and how they cope with things. I remember Meg Lanning saying like, "Oh, I don't hit underarms," and I'm like, "Oh, I hardly saw her train in the franchise." And she said, "No, I want to save all my mental energy for when I'm on game day." And we spoke a lot about the difference between feeling ready and being ready. And chances are, if you played cricket for a few years, your body knows what it's doing. You've played cricket loads of times. You know exactly what ball you're going to face, what ball you're going to bowl. You've been in those environments or those same game situations hundreds of times. But a lot of the time, we still need to have a hit for a game. We need to bowl before a game because you want to feel ready. But chances are you probably are ready. It's just a mental side. Oh, I need to bowl. I need to bowl 8 balls. I need to bowl the back of the hand before I play into this game because otherwise it won't come out well. So yeah, just trying to pick their brains about their work ethic, and they're ruthless, they're savvy, and yeah, they're a few years ahead, and they've obviously been professional for a little bit longer than England. But just speaking to them, like they're just so tunnel vision about winning. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's got my head going a little bit about a lot of those. I think what you're talking about, that differentiator between a senior pro and young pro, like the feeling good and actually the feeling ready and being ready.
Yeah,
There is a moment and there is a part of when you are younger where you do need to put in some work to figure out what gets you in a
yeah,
good place,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
you need a culmination of experiences to go, okay, well, I warmed up this way or I prepped this way and then I had a good performance. I'll try it again next game. It worked well again. Okay, there's something to this. Or it didn't work so well, but I'm going to check it again just to see if it's not just today or something that's off, and kind of reanalyze it. And eventually, through all those
Absolutely.
experiences, you build that up. And I've said this now, that even though I haven't played a professional game in 7 years, I feel more ready now than I did when I was playing. It's
Yeah,
crazy. And it's
yeah,
because I have this understanding of like what would get me ready, what gets me into a good mindset, good mental place, physical place, skill, like technical place. And then I look back at Lewis when he was playing, and he was so caught up in, I need to bowl 6 balls in a warm up that are bang on perfect,
yeah,
and then I'm ready. Like, and
yeah,
reality is that even if I didn't bowl those 6 perfect balls, as long as they kind of felt good, my body felt good, then there's a chance that they're going to come out fairly okay in the game. Like, I think I was just striving for so much perfection, and not even the outcome of perfection, like a perfect outcome, but a perfect feel. And that perfect feel may not be there in the morning. It could come in the afternoon, and you just got to get out
yeah.
there and go and have that freedom. Whereas I was
There's
looking
also
for,
maybe no such thing as well, like the perfect feel, like
totally.
especially back in the season when your body when your body's a bit sore.
And every game's a puzzle. Every game is a different puzzle.
Yeah,
That feel that you had on one game may not be the right feel for that day. And I know I will talk about it to a lot of the guys and athletes, is about, especially cricket, like, because the pitches are different, the conditions are different. Every cricket match you ever play is never the same. Maybe a similar team at a similar ground and a similar pitch, but you've never played on that fixture, that day, that pitch. It's never behaved the way it is. You've never come up against this bowling attack in that order. So it's a completely new puzzle. It's an infinite amount of possibilities that you could possibly have in
yeah,
cricket. So you must face each one with a completely new, fresh outlook, because they are a fresh puzzle. And then it's whoever can figure that puzzle out the best wins. And
yeah,
if it's never going to be perfect, your perfect fit from the last game might not fit this one. So be open to the fact that it could be different. It's yeah, I think we went off on tangent there, but it was a good tangent.
no, I agree with what you said. In fact, I feel like when I was in India, every game felt like I was doing it for the first time. Like everything was,
Mm,
I'd not played against half these players because they are world class players, and it's like, wow, I'm having to draw a field or a plan for this player or this player. We play at 2 grounds, but yeah, we're on different pitches. The crowd, different crowd influences, like it did, and I think because I was just in that, I guess, a little bit starstruck, and also that like junior player that I was walking to every game like it was a new experience, and I was just like on this joyride that was just the best time ever. And I think, yeah, you're more open to learning new ideas and to really like learning or watching. Like you could just watch the pros go about their prep, how they are in the nets, and just learn loads just by doing that. So yeah, massively eye opening for me, definitely.
I I don't think you'll mind me saying that you're someone that wears her emotions on her sleeve.
I
Um,
do, yeah.
but
My worst enemy sometimes.
well, we're harnessing those. That's the thing that we're doing. It's and it, but you, they work in your favor and also can work against you. But what if someone out there has got is highly emotional in games, is uh, highly strung? Is there something that you like doing outside of the sport that helps you sort of level yourself, that you found that works? Yeah, I'm curious to know if there's something that you do away from the game,
Um, yeah, I feel like when I'm on a cricket pitch, I'm very different to when I'm just at home or with friends or family. But
which is a good thing, by the way. Like, which is a good
yeah,
thing that we
yeah,
we
yeah. I
we
don't want
we're
to be
separating that person.
yeah, I don't want to be angry Tara all the time. It's quite draining. Um, I've got a love-hate relationship with meditation. Like I sometimes get into a really good
Yeah.
streak of it. I know it's really good for me. I enjoy doing it, but sometimes just like getting up and spending a bit of time, I find really hard. So I'd say when I do that, I feel great. I'm not doing that at the minute, but I'm a big fan of like watercoloring at the minute. I watercolor a lot of cards. So in lockdown, obviously you couldn't see your friends and family. I'd send like cards cost a lot anyway, and you got to buy a stamp. And I was being a stingy student, so I bought a pack of like these cardboard cards and some envelopes, costing like 50p from the works. And just started practicing these little shapes and colors. And I mean, they're not brilliant at all, but I'd send them to people. So now, like, I won't buy a birthday card, I won't buy a Christmas card, or like I'll just try and paint something, or I'll see something that I like and try and either draw it or paint it. And for me, I'd say like I'm quite a not chaotic, but I don't like to be still. I like to be doing stuff. My mind is constantly wired, it's constantly going. I get distracted really easily. I love being around people. I'm quite an energetic person. So when I'm watercoloring, that is for me to be still for half an hour, put some music on, maybe light a candle, be really still, look at what I'm trying to draw, and I've got no distractions. And for some reason, it's worked. And when I finish, I feel really calm, and I've normally got someone in mind that I'm painting a card for, whether it's family, friend, whatever. Like I'm thinking about that person, like I'm consciously painting like a personal card for someone. It's not random. Like everyone's a little bit personal, unique. There's always like a meaning behind it. So for me, like I think that's quite mindful. And that's kind of my meditation, my little escapism.
That's awesome.
Apart from that, like I'd love to play other sports, but sometimes your days off you don't really want to be doing stuff.
Yeah,
But for
it's
me, yeah,
true.
that's worked well.
Awesome. So just as we wrap up, you've just signed for, as of announcing it today, which this is being done on the 11th of May. So you just announced today that you're signed with the London Spirit in the 100, which is a fun tournament. But what are you looking forward to the most this summer? And I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, which is what can people expect to see when they watch Tara playing?
What can I expect? I feel like previously I've always had a little bit of a background role, I guess, in the 100. Obviously, didn't play last year, but played in the first year. Always had quite a minimal role, and I think I've always been pigeonholed as a bit of a 50 over cricketer. So hopefully this summer, especially a bit of confidence in WPL, hopefully see some pretty exciting death bowling, and hopefully taking a few wickets against some pretty big players, and yeah, playing in front of really good crowds at Lords. But yeah, definitely yeah, some death bowling and hopefully hitting a few bombs at the end. That'll be nice.
Oh yeah, okay, fair enough. And the last thing I usually ask all guests is, was there something that you are recommending to people, whether that's a book, a film, a documentary series, a quote that has inspired you at some stage, whether that's recently or in the past?
Um, what comes to mind? So I listened to a podcast a few weeks ago. I can't remember his name. I'll have to get back to you. But he said, "Don't try and be the best, be the only." And
Ooh,
like I definitely fall into that trap of comparison, trying to bowl like so and so, trying to bowl like this person, that person. But chances are, like, be yourself, personality wise, be yourself as a cricketer, an athlete, a human being, whatever work industry you're in. But yeah, don't try and be the best, be the only.
Love that. I'd probably throw you on the end of that. Be the only you, maybe
Be the
that
only
might.
you. Maybe that's it. I'll have to find it for you.
But I like that. Be the only. It's short, it's sweet, it's succinct. I
Yeah.
love that. I've written that down. Absolutely amazing. Where's the best place for people to follow you? Send them where you want to send them, Tara, and get in, if they want to get in touch or just follow your work, your journey.
Yeah, well, come down to Lords this summer. Come down to Old Trafford and watch some cricket. If not, yeah, I'm on Instagram. I don't have Twitter, but definitely by all means get involved in USA cricket, Thunder cricket, London Spirit, whatever you want. Delhi Capitals, I'll name them all.
Yeah, we'll put all the links in the show notes. It's been awesome to have you on, Tara.
Nice. Thank you so much.
I know we'll be chatting soon, but great job, and thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.